Hello everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda and in today's video we're going to be doing a Queen's Jubilee inspired set of nails. So I really hope you all enjoy watching. Now there is a Kiki London collab running over on the Instagram page to create a set of Queen's Jubilee inspired nails, and there is prizes to be won. So if you check out the community tab on the YouTube channel, I will leave all of the information there, or if you head on over to the Kiki London Instagram page, that has all the information available as well. So do check that out. So on to my set of nails, I'm going to come in with RB01 from the Rubbered Colour Base Collection. I'm going to apply this to all of the nails and cure this for 60 seconds. So I did the remaining nails off camera, but just a thin coat of rubber base coat. So if you was doing this set on yourself or a client, you would need to do all of your prep first of all, but because I'm working on display tips, I have skipped that step. Now for our colours. So we have Coconut, Ballet Charm. I wanted to make sure I had a white and a nude base in this set of nails. And then for my blue, we have the gorgeous Navy Baby. And then for my red, I went for Ruby Red, which I felt as though the Navy Baby and the Ruby Red worked really well together. And then I wanted a little hint of sparkle, so I grabbed Champagne Spritz as well. So starting off, I'm going to paint on my first coat of colour. And I'm going to begin with coconut. So starting off, I apply a coconut to the little and the pointer finger effectively, just popping down a nice thin coat of colour. I always like to work with my first coat of colour quite thin, and then my second coat of colour ever so slightly thicker. Coconut is a really easy but bright white to work with. It's definitely my go-to white from Kiki, especially for a nice bright base or for Nala as well. On the remaining two nails, I'm going to come in with the Ballet Charm, and I'm applying that exactly the same, starting off with a nice thin first coat of colour. So you can see I'm just getting it nice and neat around the cuticle and then pulling that colour down towards the tip of the nail. And already, even with only one coat of colour, these colours look very opaque where we've popped that RB01 rubber base underneath. So in certain circumstances, if you have used that milky white base underneath, you might find that you don't need to do two coats of colour. I am going to come in anyway and do a second coat of colour, but I'm keeping it quite thin to be fair, because we're not really needing it for any pigmentation. I'm just popping it down to get a nice even coverage, more so on the Ballet Charm than the coconut. So I'm just going to come in, apply that second coat of colour, and then we'll pop these in to cure for 30 seconds. And then we're ready to move on for the fun part and add some nail art. So I was really excited to do this set of nails. It's always fun when you've got a theme or some inspiration in mind to do a set of nails, because I think sometimes as well it pushes you out of your comfort zone and helps challenge you. So it was this set was a little bit of a challenge, or sorry, not this set, just one nail was a little bit of a challenge. So I thought I'd get that nail out of the way first. So we're going to do the hand painted Union Jack flag on the first nail. So I'm coming in with the Ruby Red and the Navy Baby, and I'm popping them down on my Kiki London palette. Now I'm only going to be needing these two colours because we've already got the white base, and I'm going to be hand painting using my stripe liner brush. Please do ignore the glitter that is on the end of my stripe liner brush. That is from last week's set when I was using the Diamond Dust top coat. I got a little bit of on my brush, didn't notice, and unfortunately the sunshine seems to have cured it onto my brush. Right, now before I come in and do any hand painting, when I'm doing a video, I like to come in with a layer of the matte top coat. It just takes away the shine from the surface of the nails, and I feel as though it's a little bit easier to watch. And also I do find it easier to hand paint over a matte surface, especially when you're doing a design like this with lots of little segments, because it stops your gel polish flowing. When you are working on a matte surface, your colour's not going to bleed when you're painting elsewhere. So I'm going to start off for the Union Jack flag by just drawing on that simple cross. So going straight down the nail and then straight across the nail. Now I wasn't worrying too much about the thickness here because we can thicken it up if we need to, but I just wanted to make sure I was getting those lines down and getting my segments down so I could kind of map out the shape. I don't think I've ever hand painted a Union Jack before, so it was a little bit challenging. So I'm just thickening those lines up a little bit, and I was really impressed with how easy the stripe liner brush made this step. it fans out and glides down the nail absolutely effortlessly, and due to the length of it as well, it's great for when you want to come straight down the nail. You kind of haven't got to stop and do it in two sections. You can just do one nice flow down the nail and it gives you a really nice crisp neat line. Then I'm just coming on and painting on the second sort of stage of the red lines, and I'm doing exactly the same. These are a little bit simpler because they're not as long, and also when I was looking at the flag, these ones aren't as thick as well. So I'm going to pop that into flash cure for 10 seconds, and then because we're switching colour, I'm going to clean off my brush, and I'm cleaning it off using one of the Kiki London alcohol pads, just gently rubbing the brush between that pad to clean off any of that red colour before we go into the blue. And then we're going to start off painting on the blue triangular shapes that are in the sort of next part of the flag. Now this bit was a little bit tricky. Now this is also why I flash cured the red. So when you're using a flash cure technique, you're freezing that red gel polish in place. So it's not fully curing it, but it's freezing it in place so that if you make a mistake with your next colour or your next section, your next line, whatever it is, you're able to wipe that part off without wiping off the parts that you have flash cured. So where I flash cured all of the red, if I did make any mistakes with the blue, I'd be able to wipe that off with one of the alcohol pads and not have to redo all of that red again, which when you're doing any kind of technique that needs hand painting, I find the flash cure setting an absolute must have. I was going to flash cure after one or two of the blue sections, but they was all going quite smoothly, so I just was in the flow. But if you felt as though you were struggling or if you were worried about making mistakes, you could easily pop this in for a quick 10-second flash cure after every one or two of the blue segments. Now I was being really careful, trying to get as you don't want to get too close to the red lines, because when I was looking at images of the Union Jack flag, there is the sort of white edging, so that's why I done a white base, so I only had to paint on the red and the blue. So I'm trying to go as close to those red lines as possible, but without touching them or getting too close, and also trying to keep nice crisp lines as well. But what I did find easier to do is I've done this in two coats, but more so not for the coverage, because the coverage of the gel polishes over the white base was quite opaque anyway, but I kind of was just getting the shape down with my first coat of colour, and then with the second coat I was more making sure to get a neater, crisper line. I did make a little mistake there, so I paused my camera and just wiped it off with some alcohol. But as you can see, I'm not stressing too much about creating a crisp straight line, because the brush does a lot of that for you. Just place it down. I like to place it down and hold my breath and then move my brush down the nail, and it creates a nice crisp line. So on to the second coat of colour, I did decide to come over the red just so it popped a little bit more, and because this was quite an easy step, so I thought I would just get it in there and do a second coat of colour anyway. So I'm just going to come over this. I'm not really creating the lines, I'm just sort of going down the centre of them again, just so the colour pops a little bit more. You could realistically skip this step if you wanted to, because I did feel as though the ruby red looked pigmented enough as it was. I was just being a little bit picky and wanting to make sure it looked nice and bright. But if you did find it hard just doing one coat, you probably could easily get away with not having to stress yourself out by doing a second coat. But I loved how it just made that red stand out a little bit more. I did flash cure that for 10 seconds, and then we're going to come in with the blue. Now my main point here with the blue was I wanted to get the edges of the triangle a little bit neater. When I'd done them on the first coat, they was a little bit rough because I just wanted to get the shape down and make sure I was leaving enough room of the white and the red. So I'm mainly just applying a teeny tiny amount of gel polish onto that stripe liner brush so I can get a crisper, pointier point of that triangle, and I felt as though it kind of made the whole design look a little bit more neater just adding in that second coat to do that. So I just showed you guys doing it on these couple of sections here rather than the entire nail, because I didn't want it to be too boring, and I spent absolutely ages on this nail. I think this nail took me 20 minutes and the whole video is only 17 minutes long because I had to speed up that, because I hand paint quite slowly, especially when I know I'm recording. So I did then cure that so we can move on to the second nail. Now on the second nail, I'm working over the Ballet Charm. So I'm going to come in first of all with a layer of base coat, and we're going to be using this like a blooming gel because I wanted a sort of marble tie-dye effect up in the corner. So I've applied that base coat and I've left that wet, so we've not popped that into cure. And then using my detail brush, I'm going to dot on the colours. Because I already had the colours down on my palette, I didn't want to waste any more gel polish by basically creating my marble on the palette. So that was why I decided to do it this way, because the gel polish was already down, and it does give off a bit of a different effect as well. So I've then taken my dotting tool and I'm just swirling up and down. Rather than going around and around, I just went up and down to give it more of that tie-dye effect rather than a marble, and I thought it looked really, really cool. And then because it's got the base coat down there that's acting like a blooming gel, the edges have bloomed out nicely as well. Now to this now as well, I wanted to add on the Queen's initials. So I have cut out an E and an R from the Old English letters of the Kiki London water decals. I will find out their correct name and leave it linked in the description box, but my mind's gone blank. I think they are just called Old English water decals. So I'm applying these using the stamper method. So I placed my water decal face down onto my stamping plate, applied a little bit of room temperature water, slid off the backing paper, and then you're able to stamp that water decal down exactly where you need it. So again, just doing the exact same again. You only need a tiny amount of water and just leave it for around 10-20 seconds. Whilst the second one is soaking, I'm going to take my silicone tool and just smooth out any creases from that first water decal. I do find applying them with the stamper method, you get minimal creases and it just makes application a lot easier. So here I applied my R a little bit too close to the E, so I'm just pulling it down ever so slightly, and then again just smoothing over it. There wasn't really any creases, but I do still like to smooth over it just to make sure it's got good contact with the nail. Now I did want to add in a little hint of gold to this, so I've popped down my champagne spritz onto my palette, and I'm just going to run a teeny tiny amount of this through that tie-dye marble effect. I don't want loads, but I just want a little hint of sparkle. And then once I am happy with that, we're going to have to pop that in to cure again. So I'm going to pop that in just to cure for 30 seconds. And then that is this nail finished. Obviously we have to top coat them, but I'm going to top coat all the nails together at the end of the video. So on to the third nail, I had already got my Ballet Charms applied, but I did come in again and apply a layer of that matte top coat just for the same reasons as the first nail. It's a lot easier on camera. And then I wanted to do a French. Originally I was going to do a French nail with all three of the colours, but when I'm adding more than one colour for a French, I kind of quite like doing these side Frenches. I think they're just a little bit different from your classic French, and they look a lot more fun when you're using more than one colour. So taking the ruby red, I've just literally swept across the nail just like you would when you're doing a French, except for rather than doing it all the way around, I've just gone off on half. I actually find this way a lot easier as well than a classic French nail, because you haven't got to worry about symmetry, you haven't got to worry so much about creating a perfect shape. So if you are wanting to do a French look but you're not 100% happy with perfecting your French, definitely give these little side French a go, because they still look as pretty and as elegant as a classic French, but I actually think they look a little bit more fun, and then on top of that they're a little bit easier to do. So I like to flash cure after each colour, same as when we were doing the Union Jack, because then if you make a mistake with your next colour, you're able to wipe it off and neaten it up without worrying about smudging the previous colour. And also when you're doing a design like this, you do need to flash cure so that your next colour doesn't run into the previous colour. Now the Kiki London Deluxe LED lamp does have a 10-second flash cure setting, but if you're using the older Kiki lamp or a different lamp that doesn't have the 10-second function, then you can just count to 10 when you pop it in. So after I'd done the red, white and blue, I did decide I would come over the edge with a little bit of the champagne spritz as well, just because I kind of wanted to try and tie in a little bit more of that gold, as I hadn't actually added in as much as I'd wanted throughout the design. And I did really feel like for a Queen's Jubilee inspired set, we need a little bit of gold in there. So I'm just coming along the edge with this. It is a little bit trickier, I find, to hand paint sometimes with the glitter, but it gives off such a beautiful effect. So I'm going to cure that for 30 seconds. And again, that is this now done until we come along and top coat. So on to the final now, I'm going to come in over the top of coconut with my no wipe or rubber top coat. Now this particular now is the absolute easiest of the entire set. I'm going to come in and apply a layer of the rubber top coat, and I'm going to leave this wet. And then into my wet top coat, I'm going to pop down this really cute little tiara slash crown. I found this in my nail art box. I can't 100% remember where I got it from, but as soon as I see it, I thought, do you know what, I've got to save these because the Queen's Jubilee is coming up and they'll be brilliant for a Jubilee inspired set of nails. But it's just a little gold metal tiara, so I'm going to set that down into my wet rubber top coat and then pop that in to cure for 60 seconds. And then I'm going to come over the top again with another layer of the rubber top coat just to seal that in. It would hold in place just set down, but you might find the edges will stick up a little bit, so I've just applied another layer to top coat it again effectively and to give us a super smooth finish. So that's all of our design work done. All that's left to do is top coat those first 3 nails. So for the top coat on those nails, I'm going to be using a combination of the no wipe top coat and the no wipe matte top coat, because I did want this set to be a combination of both matte and glossy. So I'm going to come over the top of the Union Jack with the matte. I was torn between whether to do this matte or glossy, but I really do love hand painted nails when they have a matte finish. Now on this one, we've already got the Ballet Charm sealed in with the matte top coat before we did our hand painting. So I'm going to come over the top with the no wipe top coat, but I'm just making the tip of the nail glossy, and I really loved how this turned out. It made that tip stand out a lot more, and it just made the whole nail look a lot more fun, where you've got that glossy right against that matte base. Then onto this nail, I decided to do a full matte nail because the little tiara nail that we did last is glossy, so I thought we'd have another matte one. And then we're going to pop all of those in to cure for 60 seconds, and this is the final result. So I had a lot of fun doing this set of nails, so I hope you all enjoyed watching. As always, I will leave all of the products I've used linked in the description box below, and all the information as well for the collab, so do check that out. If you did enjoy this video, please do give it a thumbs up and leave us a comment below, and if you haven't already subscribed, do hit that subscription button, and I shall see you all again in next Friday's video. Lots of love, take care, bye bye.